Hey, so some of you have been asking me how I actually turned this grayscale, which was in the speed paint video, into an actual functioning grayscale. Uh, and so I thought I'd share with you how I do it. I used to do it differently, but now I do it in a way that I think is easier to work with for all colors in general. You won't get any nasty shading because of merging color onto shading and getting weird values or anything. We will still be using grain merge mode, but it won't be on top of the shading. It will be under the shading, and I think it will come out be easier to work with overall. And I have made, just to show you, this is something, and also this design. So the different colors, you can still adjust the shading to make it match pretty well. So right now all I have is the grayscale itself all in one layer and then the background layer. So the first step is I'm going to duplicate this 3 times. If you just right click and hit U, then it'll jump down to duplicate layer, the U. So the base copy I'm just going to save just in case of a tragic event, in which case I need the base grayscale again. So that's just going to hang out under the background. And then I'm just going to have one of these showing, so just this one. And I'm going to go use color to alpha a few times here. So layer transparency, color to alpha, and this will remove all of a certain color from your layer. So right now I want to remove the very medium gray color. This is the color that I started out and I did all my shading on top of. So this is the base color. So if I remove that, you don't see a difference because the background is also the same color. Now I'm going to do this again, and this time I'm going to remove all of the shadows. So all of the black will be taken out. So this is all the white that is in this layer, this grayscale. Now I need to take out all the highlights and just have the shadows. So color to alpha, remember to do the medium gray again, or else it won't come out right if you don't take out this medium gray color first, I promise you. And then transparency, color alpha, I hit the wrong thing, I'm funny. Layer transparency, color to alpha. Now we're going to take out all the highlights. So taking out all the white, and that will leave just the darks, and if you combine them together, it looks exactly like what we started out with. So now this third duplicated layer we need a base to do all the coloring on top of. So I'm actually going to turn it black, just with the colorize tool, just shove this all the way down to the left hand side, and then colorize it again. Saturation goes down to 0, and you can just type in 50 for the lightness value. And it appears like we have an invisible horse, but it's just because the background is the same color. So I'll just change the background here real quick. Maybe something darker or lighter, maybe lighter. And if we put this on the bottom and we look at everything again, it looks like what we started out with. So in order to set this up further, we're going to use some layer groups. Layer groups, once you learn how to use them and get used to them, are your best friends, especially if you're like me and you use just ridiculous number of layers in everything you do. So I just made a layer group. I'll call it color, just for the sake of naming things. I'll call this the gray, the flat gray one, the base. Let's call this shadows, with all the darks on it, and that one can be, oh, the wrong thing. That one can be highlights. Nope. Highlights. There we go. And now we're going to make a new layer group. This is actually going to be the base color. So let's naming, there we go. Base color. I like to name my layer groups in all caps it kind of makes them easier to see at first glance. That's just me personally. And then we're going to make a new layer called base. And we're going to use the fill tool, and you can just fill the whole layer on top as that. And we're going to put the whole layer, you can actually put whole layer groups on layer modes. So for the base color, we're going to put it all in grain merge, and so now you've gotten rid of all the extra blah. And you can change the color right now, you can mess around with it. And this is starting to kind of function like a grayscale, right? This weird blue horse doesn't actually look that bad with all the shading on it. But we're not done yet. So the base color is what I normally like, pretty much everything except for maybe it's definitely white patterns like Tobiano, Overo, Sabino, maybe even Rabicano I would put on a different layer, but this base color will have like the bay, dun, cream, just your very base color. But sometimes you have white markings, and if you're like me, I would like to keep the white markings separate, because I know, at least for this guy, I did a lot of editing of white markings until I was happy. So I'm going to have a new layer group, and I'm going to call it the white. And it's going to be also in the base color group, but on top of the actual base. If that makes sense. So layer, new layer, we're going to have the actual markings layer. And then if you're like me and you like realism, you want to have some areas like the muzzle and around the eye, maybe this stomach a bit, have pink areas where the skin shows through. And I like to have that showing. So for this white markings layer, this doesn't look very realistic, right? Just blatant white does not look very good. So we need to figure out what color we want to use for white. And I've actually found out the color. The one I use for this one is this color. And this is the RGB value, or sorry, HTML value if you want to use that. It's kind of like a creamy color. And if I use this, then it looks better. Not perfect, but we can change the highlights and shadows layer to make it look better. And we will do that later. So this is just a better choice than just stark white. And now for the pink layer, I'm just going to go ahead and use this red color, and I'll just use a faded brush, very low opacity. We want this to be on grain merge mode, and just sort of click around a few times. So I'm on 14 opacity right now. This actually looks a little pink to me. I like it to be a little bit more orangey. That's just a personal preference. That's the wrong way. Like that. I like that color. So I just want to make the muzzle pink. I like to make around the eye pink. Like that. Sometimes a little bit under the neck maybe. Ears can be just a little bit pink. And then I'll slow down the opacity some more. Maybe around the stomach area. And you don't have to do all these areas, of course. You can just totally skip this step, but this is how I do it. So, alright. So now if this were a dominant white horse and completely white, this would look okay. This would pass as a dominant white. And how I actually format this for when I save it as a grayscale is I'm going to delete everything on the markings, and I'm just going to put a dot of color, so that if I want to have markings on my design, I can just, it'll be like this, and then if I want to do markings, I can show this layer and then grab the color and just go at it, right? So white layer is done, we're good. I'm going to hide the white layer group. So now we're back to just our base color. Now, oftentimes mane and tail and hooves are not the same color as the body, unless pretty much if it's black, and even then. So I like to have these on separate layers. Now I've already gotten I've used the path tool just to select all these areas I just mentioned, and I'm going to go to the base color and I'm going to select everything from the path. So right now I have the tail selected. Control C, Control V, Control Shift N. Those are shortcuts. Copy paste and put it on a new layer. And I'm going to put it on top of the white layer group. And the same thing for the mane. Back to the base layer. Control C, Control V, Control Shift N. And it would actually be better if you had the mane on its own layer already. From when you were coloring it, I had it all on one layer, so it's not going to be the prettiest thing in the world. But it's good enough for now. Alright, so here's the tail and mane layer. And I'm just going to merge them together because generally the mane and tail are the same color, you know. And then also, here we go. You have the eye layer. Actually, that's a better selection. Alright, so base, selection from path, Control C, Control V, Control Shift N. Right, and here's our eye. I'm going to name that eye. And drag it there. And I'm going to rename the mane and tail layer to hair. Okay, so now we can change the color of the mane and tail just by itself. And that'll be helpful, especially for like bay colors, where it's very different from the base color. But you know, I like layer groups, so I'm going to have a new layer group, and I'm going to put the hair, I'm going to name this hair first. There we go. Hair. That's the hair base color, and then right click U. We're going to have hair color layer, and then put the hair color layer on grain merge. And this will come in handy when if you have like a Tobiano where the mane has more than one color, stripes and white in it, then you don't want to be messing with keeping inside the bounds and everything. You're just going to want to scribble, and this will let you scribble. So right here I'm on the grain merge mode layer, and I'm just extending the color past the boundaries a little bit. That just makes it look better at the ends. Okay, so there's a few more things to do. One of those things is the hooves. I like to put the hooves on another layer because often they're also not the same color as the body layer. So I'm going to quickly and messily select everything. Please do it. All the selecting I'm doing much neater than I am. I'm just trying to be conscious of time. If you're selecting something, by the way, and you want to add another selection to it, you can hold down Shift when you do the first anchor point, and then it'll add to your previous selections. Alright, so here's a hooves, so Control C, Control V, Control Shift N, and we'll put these below the eye, doesn't really matter. So hooves. And these are going to get their own layer again, own layer group rather. Should I keep not spelling things? There we go. Alright, so hooves. Actually, going to hooves base as well, and then duplicate that, and we have hooves color. And again, color is going to be in grain merge mode. Right, and the eye is going to stay boldly out of a layer group by itself. Alright, so this is pretty much how I have it formed in something like this. There's a few more things that I did here. Obviously I have a background as well. But this is the very basics. You could go more in depth if you wanted to. play around with layer groups, and I'll just color something real quick while I'm talking. So you can play around with layer groups, play around with, you know, layering things. Oh, also, I forgot. On this base layer right here, we really don't need to have the main layer anymore, mane and tail. Oh, hair needs to be out of the base color group. So do the hooves and the eye. I put all those in one place. Okay, now if you erase, we can erase the base mane and tail from the base color, or else we're gonna get weird colored mane and tail. Mane ends as well. You can kind of tell as I'm erasing, it's getting lighter. There we go. Alright, so let's do a, say a beige Tobiano. Simple, but it'll still show how to sort of use all the layer groups we've just made. There, that's brown. Sorry. So right now, most of the time what actually looks good is if you go to the highlights layer and you put it on grain merge mode. It'll kind of give that colored light effect and it won't be as starkly bright. It'll just look better. So I've just done that there. Alright, so now bays, I'm going to use my tablet actually right now. Alright, so bays have a blackish, they have black points. That's not the right brush. There we go. So I'm just going to color in black. I like that color. So I just picked up that color so that all the other dark areas will have the same exact color. There we go. Coloring. So right here you don't have to worry about going outside the lines at all, which is one of my favorite things about using grain merge. Alright, so there's black points here generally, around the eye. And also, just as a sort of rule of thumb kind of thing, if you just darken like the top line on pretty much any color, it'll make it look so much better because it won't look as flat or anything. Even if there's like no reason to darken the top line. Just add some depth, sort of. And maybe we want to make it sort of like lighten some points right here. Just add some variation to the code. It'll make it look a lot better. See, now it doesn't look so flat anymore as it did before. Alright, and if we expand the hair layer and go to hair color, it's a base, so it's going to be a dark color. So I normally do a brown desaturated color. There. And then, so Tobiano, we're going to use our white markings. So I'm going to show the white layer group. So there's markings. And I'm going to grab that color and hit delete. And I'm using my sketching pencil brush for this with the airbrush. So, oh, that's too big. I don't know. I'm just gonna do something. Tobiano, yay. I like putting markings on the butt too. Maybe a little. So notice as I am coloring on the muzzle how that pink is automatically getting added. And I just think that that is so nice to have set up like that. It makes me so happy. Actually, I'm going to leave that one there. Alright, so there's a Tobiano, but the places where the white touches the main will actually also make the main white. And notice how this creamy color actually looks pretty good. The stark white would just look terrible. So hair color, and I'm just going to use the same color again and just make that white streak. And also, why not make a white streak in the tail? White streak. There you go. Alright. So that looks pretty good. So hooves. So 3 of the hooves are going to be a cream color and one of those is going to be black. So on the hooves color, we're just going to select those, holding down shift to select them all. And that's okay for now. And then I'll select this one and make it dark. There we go. And then the eye also, we can change the color. I'll just make it like a... That's good enough. Now something I like to do with the eye is actually, I'm going to go back with the path, get that same eye path. I'm on the shadows selection from path, Control C, Control V, Control Shift N. So I've duplicated the shadow part of the eye, and I'm going to call it eye shading. And because we want the highlight to be pretty bright, and having it on green merge is not helpful, I'm just going to kind of go over the highlight. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. Yeah. And then I'm also going to delete the original shadows. There we go. And just kind of do this thing. Make it nice and dark on the edges. There we go. Now, this looks, it looks pretty good, but as you kind of might notice on the muzzle, the shading looks kind of murky because we're using black on top of pink, and that's not really the color you should be using. So we're going to fix that. So I clicked on the white markings layer that we colored on, and I'm going to select the white layer, just like all the white markings everywhere on the coat using the Lego tool looking thing. And then on shadows, I'm going to go to colorize, increase the brightness by like 4 or 5 and drag it into the brown area, and increase the saturation. So now we have, it's not much of a difference, but at least you really notice in this area how it just looks better to have that cream shadow color instead of just stark black. And that's what I did for this one. It's a big difference if I show you. If I just did it all black, it's kind of like, the shading doesn't look quite right. But if I have it with the cream color, then it looks much better. So, that's not, yeah, so that's the basis for us. You can, basis for this. You can certainly add more layer groups and separate things more if you want. Oops. And then I normally like to change the background into something that's matches what I just did. So like, I don't know, reddish brown color. as you can see here, I've added like background, and I've also added that's something else, but that's how you turn a flat grayscale into a nicely, in my opinion, nicely functioning grayscale. And you can certainly add your own variation to this, and you should. You should try to make it your own. Do what makes sense to you. But anyway. So yeah, this is how I did the grayscale and how I colored it. So just remember, if you have light colors, you probably want to change the shadows to something not complete stark black. Like a creamy brown color shadow is probably better for like Perlinos, Cremellos, stuff like that. And yeah, so hope this helps. If you have any questions, please ask. You can ask me on here or on DeviantArt or Facebook. And happy drawing and designing. Surprise! I thought I would show you how I have my officially done grayscale set up. So I have the eye shading. This is because you can't really see the front of the head like at all. I have this here. This is just lines and then some gray that I do the white markings on. And then if I'm really ambitious, I'll do the other side's markings on that. But I have highlights, shadows, a horse layer, color layer. I have the eye. And then for this one, I also have, it's bigger. There we go. I also have the forelock on its own layer in case I want to do it like a different color than the base. If it's white or like silver dapple sometimes. But that's that doesn't really work out too well actually. Hooves actually just are not in its own layer. They're just color. And then the white markings again, here's my dot. And the pink, I have the pink overlay. Base color. Right, that's that. And then I have, the whole base and shadow and then some background things. And so this is when I open it up to do stuff, this is what it looks like for me. But you guys set it up however makes sense to you. I hope this helped again. And thanks for watching.